Hello, and welcome to Making Sense of It. I am Mona Duncan, your moderator, and our speaker today is Professor Dave Hancock, who is a friend of, was a friend of Dr. Glasser for years, went to school together or taught each other school lessons and so forth. And Dave is going to be sharing with us today uh, strategies to prevent school violence. So, welcome everyone. And after the recording is stopped, we will open the airways so that you can ask questions or make comments. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to Dave. So, Dave, tell us about strategies for preventing school violence.
Yeah, hello, good morning, everyone. Uh, School police officers should do more than just survey and control the school. And according to Dr. Glasser, I want to give you his main points on school violence from the perspective of Dr. William Glasser. Lately, I've visited a few schools, and I have observed that in high poverty, low resource schools with large numbers of students of color, SROs, school resource officers, send the message that their work is to protect students from each other and to protect teachers and other adults in the school from students. Noticeably, in better resource schools with larger numbers of white students, school resource officers are viewed as those who protect those in the school from outsiders. Now, enough, or even though there's enough statistics, like Mark Twain said, three kinds of lies, lies, damn lies, and statistics, but these statistics don't lie, Mark. Even though statistics show that school violence is diminishing, that was about 20 years ago, before Columbine. It is still a threat no school can afford to dismiss. To make schools safer requires the effort of staff, faculty, students, and parents. But it is the skill of counselors that can provide what may be most needed: an effective violence prevention program. From experience, working with students, Dr. Glasser believes such a program is neither difficult to explain nor expensive to put into place. Unhappiness combined with a strong feeling in the perpetrator that others should be punished for the way he or she feels is by far the main reason that anyone strikes out at another human being. Why the unhappy boy or girl, I like to say men or women, lashes out, more men than women do this, at the particular time she does, however, cannot be predicted. We can't predict in a way. What can be predicted is that almost all unhappy boys, girls, and men and women carry within them the potential for violence. And in our schools, there are many unhappy students and unhappy adults, faculty, etc., staff. Therefore, the key to reducing violence is to do what Dr. Glasser believes can be done in every school: reduce the number of unhappy students. The fewer there are, the fewer school problems will be, and including violence. Any such school as in Columbine, when was that, back in 1999, has at any time a specific number of very unhappy students, any one of whom is potentially violent. No one knows this exact number, but if violence occurs, it will be committed by one or two students from this group, the group affiliation. For example, in a high school such as Columbine with 2,000 plus students with no violence prevention program in place, at the time of the incident, there may have been 20 unhappy students, enough to do what Harris and Klebold did. Therefore, to totally prevent what happened may have been impossible. But if a year prior to the incident, Columbine had a violence prevention program in place, it would not be unrealistic that the number of potentially violent students could have been reduced from 25 to 5 students. And making the reasonable assumption that neither Harris nor Klebold would have acted alone, even if one of them were in the group of 15 who were no longer violent, the incidents could have been prevented. In retrospect, a lot of information about unhappiness of Harris and Klebold has been, was made public after that incident. But prior to the violence, it is doubtful that anyone at Columbine or any other similar high school could have picked up enough information to predict any violence, much less that it would have been committed by these young men. Uvalde, Texas would be an example. What was needed then and still needed is a violence prevention program, VPP acronym. Not only in Columbine, Uvalde, but everywhere, but in every school in the United States. Such programs would not reduce the incidence of violence. They would reduce the incidence of all behavior problems that create violence and bad behavior in school. The cost of violence far exceeds the cost of an effective VPP. What is being done now at Columbine, this was around the year, 2000, 2001, and 2, and almost every school in the country is to enhance security. Where you go to school or the airport. This step, security guards, x-ray machines, and restricted entrances and exits is being taken because everyone can see it. It also gives administrators and school boards the sense that something visible is being done. Prevention, that conditioned stimulus, eliciting an unconditioned or conditioned response. But short of what is done in airports, the chance of enhanced security preventing much violence is small for the amount of money it costs. We're not saying it shouldn't be done if there is plenty of money available, but if money is short, it will be much more effective to spend it on a violence prevention program run by well-trained counselors who have no responsibilities other than this program. We should have 2 counselors, 1 man and 1 woman. We would estimate 1 such counselor for about every 1,000 students. Would be a good number to start. In Columbine, this would have meant 2 full-time counselors with no other responsibility except for VPP. We do recognize in a time when most school boards are reducing the number of counselors, social workers, this may seem to be a large increase. But compared with the cost of even average security, the salaries of 2 counselors would not be out of line. Well-trained counselors can reduce the number of unhappy students significantly. In fact, the sight of more security personnel and equipment may become an attractive challenge to violence-prone students. Well, in Dr. Glasser's reality therapy book, Ventura School, he created such a program. During 11 years, at the beginning of Dr. Glasser's career, he worked as a psychiatrist for the California Youth Authority facility for 400 adolescent and young adult delinquent women. He became personally involved with reducing the unhappiness of what he was sure were some of the unhappiest young women in the school. Then as now, he did not prescribe psychiatric drugs, psychotropic drugs. He never did. Read his book, Warning, Psychiatry Can Be Hazardous to Your Mental Health. I only counseled and supervised other counselors at first. I realized that girls were not as violent as boys. But our girls had much higher rate of unhappiness than the girls found in any public school. Nevertheless, during his 11-year tenure at the Ventura School, there were many fewer girl fights than occurred in most public schools. Well, I witnessed a few girl fights in the cafeteria at Cleveland Heights High School, and they were brutal. I mean, it was like running with a bulls and a stampede in Spain. And security guards, unarmed, would break it up and things would cool off. What I did, what Dr. Glasser did, with which the counselors in a violence prevention program would need to do if the program were to be successful, was make it our business to get to know two specific groups of girls. That's what Dr. Glasser did at the Ventura School. The first group was obvious. It included the girls we knew from their records and had a history of violence or a way of dressing or wearing their hair that provoked negative attention in the school. That would be similar to the obvious trench coat mafia group at Columbine High School. But it was the much less obvious second group that was the key to the success we had in preventing violence at Ventura School. This group was made up of girls who were most in touch with what was going on in the school. They knew who was unhappy and what the unhappiness was about. Such a group exists in every high school, middle school and elementary really also. It just takes time to determine who comprises it. These girls, for the most part, like the reform school. They appreciated what we were trying to do, and they did not want our school marred with violence any more than we did. To find out who they were, Dr. Glasser spent a lot of time hanging out in the cottages or in the school. Dr. Glasser ate lunch with the girls and talked to the house mothers and teachers to get suggestions from who he should see. When he found one and talked to her enough, he began to trust Dr. Glasser. He usually directed Dr. Glasser to others. After a while, he developed a reputation at the school for helping the girls that they suggested to me. Very often when I would call a girl to my office, the same girl had heard about what I did and wanted to talk with me. I did not even have to guarantee that I would keep what the girls told me confidential. In fact, Dr. Glasser told them not to tell me anything that could get them into serious trouble with any girl or her friends that she recommended to Dr. Glasser. But they still told me because they knew that if someone was in danger to herself or others, Dr. Glasser would try to handle it without telling more than he had to. But that did not mean that I kept anything that was potentially harmful away from the superintendent. Basically, the girls trusted the superintendent and me to never use their information to get anyone punished or in trouble. There we go, punishment. Occasionally, a girl had to be segregated for a short time until we would resolve the problem. It was a narrow line to walk, but mostly Dr. Glasser was able to stay on it. The violence prevention counselor is not a police officer who seeks out and punishes wrongdoers. Even in the girls' school, none of the girls I dealt with was involved in a serious crime. They might be planning to do something wrong, or they may have done something wrong, but to find this out was not Dr. Glasser's role. His role was prevention, and the only way we can prevent violence or any other undesirable behavior is to build a strong, satisfying relationship with the unhappiest students and with the students who can help find them. A few students played both roles, the source of information and also the subject of a problem. Dr. Glasser said he cannot overestimate the importance of this. In Columbine, the trench coat mafia were well known. That at least two of them were potentially violent was learned too late. What seemed to render them less dangerous was they were good students academically. Hey, like Marion Wright Edelman said, you can get all A's, still flunk life. But that is no protection against their being violent. Dr. Glasser mentioned he was sure the Unabomber was a very good student. Oh, he was. Held out there in the shack, but his manifesto was recognized by his brother and sister-in-law, and they tipped off the authorities. What all of these violent students share is exactly what the violence prevention program is designed to address. They lack good relationships with warm, caring, responsible adults. Yeah, I felt like a surrogate parent myself in teaching. All of us do. We are surrogate parents. The job of the VPP counselor is to be that adult for these students. The success of the program will be directly related to how well the counselors can do this. And instead of school police resource officers, many schools have black Labradors roaming the hall, Great Danes roaming the hall, golden retrievers roaming the hall, sniffing around. Everybody started laughing. They're happy. My contention that these students are disconnected from responsible, caring adults is supported by one of the most important, yet least known research programs I've ever read. Everyone who works in a school should read this research called Protecting Adolescents from Harm by Resnick, R-E-S-N-I-C-K. Copyright 1997. Dr. Glasser's first book, 1969, I read in college. Schools Without Failure, and every student can succeed. It could just as well have had the subtitle Protecting Others from Harmful Adolescents. What this extensive research points out conclusively is that only two groups of people can prevent adolescents from harming themselves and others: parents and teachers. I would recommend reading Choice Theory in the Classroom, The Quality School, and The Quality School Teacher, all of Dr. Glasser's education books, of course. Klebold and Harris did not have that kind of relationship with their parents or with any teacher in school. Most adults look at young people in trouble as if they are guilty. In conclusion, we all, parents, teachers, counselors, faculty, staff, etc., eliminate external control psychology on how we behave. And that's the psychology of the world, as Dr. Glasser describes. Avoid the 7 lethal, deadly habits of external control psychology: criticizing, blaming, complaining, nagging, threatening, punishing, and bribing even. Punish by rewards, Alfie Kohn, bribes, just as bad. A bribe's a reward with the aim to control. These habits destroy relationships, marriages, etc., cause almost all the problems with which people struggle. In fact, the problems such as mental disorders, it's not illness, it's a disorder, the way people choose to resist the control of others or keep them or anger in check. Let's model and implement the caring habits: supporting, encouraging, listening. Listen and silent have the same letters. Is that coincidence? Accepting, trusting, and respecting, and negotiating differences. And we'll have our boss dictatorial management turned into lead management: love, freedom, power, fun, and a sense of belonging. So let's get started, or change your present behavior if you're a boss to a leader. Thank you.
Well, Dave, thank you very much. There was a lot of really good information in a short period of time. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And
Thank you.
This will go on the Glasser website probably a couple of days before it actually gets there with the different ones that post and put it out. But it'll be on the Glasser website if you want to share it with someone else or listen to it again yourself. So anyway, I'm going to close out, and those that are present can ask questions and make comments. So thank you for being here for the,
Thank you.
yes. Hold on.